I'm resident of Collinwood, Jules Saints for YouTube, joined by my buddy Butch Rosenbalm and my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to discuss the movie Rio Bravo starring John Wayne, Dean Martin, and my God, this movie is fabulous. Directed by Howard Hawks, this movie is a response to another Western called High Noon. And if you've never seen that movie, it's really good too. Um, but it's John Wayne's response to High Noon, and it's a beautiful, beautiful response, and a hell of a movie. Butch, when did you first see this bad boy?
I should have had my answer ready for that. I'm sorry, Joel. Let's go late '90s, like when I started catching up on westerns. It was arguably the first John Wayne film I actually sat down and completely watched.
Yeah, Patrick, when did you first see it?
It was on cable, 1985. I had heard 85 or 86. Michael Caine was talking about it, and he said they kept changing the title on him, and that he had gotten done shooting with Joseph Bologna, and I think the real standout of young Demi Moore, and and so I saw it on cable. It was kind of naughty, but witty at the same time.
Yeah, I first saw this when I was a young boy with my grandfather sitting in his living room, and what a movie! It doesn't have so much desert porn; it more has trail porn, and you see that's how you see it. You see some stagecoaches and some horses coming down this trail. There's some desert, don't get me wrong, but there's more dirt than anything else, and there's some small hills, and there's it's more set in a town than anything else, and that's what I like about it. It's very different.
Well, I mean, I remember the island scenery with Michael Caine, Joseph Bologna taking their daughters on their vacation, and then Joseph Bologna is the Rio movie, right?
Rio Bravo.
Oh God, I thought this was Blame It on Rio.
I was wondering when he was talking about Demi Moore. I'm like, what? But it kind of cut out, so I didn't hear it all.
You mean Blame It on Rio Bravo?
No, Rio Bravo, the movie with John Wayne, Dean Martin. That movie.
I've never heard of it, but let's see, which one is Michelle Johnson on that cover?
Right here, right here,
Okay,
Michelle Johnson.
very funny. I think Larry Gelbart screenplay. Um, okay, all kidding aside. Yeah, I saw this movie about 25 years ago. So, Butch, it was probably around the same time you saw it, late
Yeah.
90s. And I was first directing cinema studies, and I sort of broke it up by genre. And I would show a movie in the genre, and then five lucky kids would kind of a report on film in that genre. And not person in westerns, I consulted a very, very, very bright man named David Rains, who has a film and unerring taste. And Rio Bravo movies he recommended. I knew Howard Hawks because of the name, and one of the great screwball comedies of all time. I swear to God, I think it's a Howard Hawks movie, and it's like the Philadelphia Story, but entertaining. Uh, I mean, Howard Hawks was one of those guys like Billy Wilder or Steven Spielberg, pretty much direct anything. If he wanted to, Howard Hawks could do that genre. I mean, the greatest football comedy of all time, Bringing Up Baby. One of the great 50s monster movies of all time, which was, of course, the adaptation of Mame, which was the Thing, with James Arness, Western star, future Western star, and then Real Bravo. He's known also for his westerns and movies on Men at Work, things like that. So just a real, a very conversant director in the art of using a camera to tell a story. And Roger Ebert called this movie seamless, and I have to agree with him. It's just it is a perfectly constructed film. I feel like it flies by. You know, it's what 2 hours and 21 minutes, 40, something like that. It's like 2.5 hours, and it flies by. It's very well paced. It's very well modulated. I never feel like one is taking such command of the narrative that I get tired of it. Each musical number comes on. Okay, cool. What's up? I think the characters are interesting. You know, westerns are a genre very like so popular. You know, at their zenith, that just kind of fetishize the Western. We're doing a Western and have people standing around in Western clothes with guns and long silences staring at each other. And that was enough for the time. And if you're a Western fan, it is enough. But if you're not a Western fan, it's pretty deadly. And so this is a film that completely both embodies its genre and I think transcends it to where anyone is going to like this movie. If you like a story told with a camera and actors, you know, this is one of the. I think it was Red River before this with John Wayne. Yeah, that's the one where John, who had just done some movies with Wayne. If you didn't know that, John Wayne apparently worked together once or twice. But Ford looked at him and said, "I didn't know the son of a bitch could act." And I was like, "Well, John, maybe you should have
let him."
Yeah. Rather than have him, hopefully surprise cast members the way you'd like to." But Howard wasn't that guy.
Interestingly, I have 2 DVD versions of this. Then they're basically the same thing. But there's a commentary actually on both of these. It's with John Carpenter and I never can remember the other guy's name. Richard Schickel.
Oh,
hopefully I said that correctly. John Carpenter right away makes up during the opening scene with Dean Martin in the bar with Claude Akins. John Carpenter makes a comment, and it goes in hand with what you said. He said that he felt like Howard Hawks' camera was always perfectly set to catch whatever he was filming, and I agree with that. I agree with everything you just said. I mean, this is a Western for people that don't necessarily like Westerns. Yeah. It's a good story.
And it doesn't make that an anti-Western,
right?
It's a super Western, but it's not so caught on its own badass self that it thinks that, well, we got props, we got like it, so sure, let's just do that and call it a day. And genre falls prey to that. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why Silence of the Lambs was such a good crossover movie, because it was a horror movie that wasn't content to just be a horror. I mean, you could have gotten any crappy director to make that, and it would have been fine. But Jonathan Demme thought, let's make it. I mean, it's like what Kubrick did with The Shining.
Some of the best John Wayne Westerns don't necessarily start off with John Wayne. They start off with somebody else, and that somebody else in this case is Dean Martin. And you see Dean Martin walk, and then he comes into the saloon, and he's looking for a drink, but he also looks very, very despair. He's very sad, and you see the silver dollar, the $50, if you will, or silver dollar thrown into the jar, and he reaches in, and then the jar's kicked over, and that's where you see John Wayne's character, the sheriff, John. I want to say John T. Chance is his name, and he looks down at the character, and it's a very surreal moment, and it's a very serious moment, and I love it. You know, the camera work is very well done here, and the acting is very well. I mean, I have to charge. I might have to charge um, uh, with God. Shit. I might have to charge a thing with a crime here for stealing this movie because he nearly does. He pretty much does. He does a great job of uh, in the process of stealing this from John Wayne. I mean, he does a great job. Go ahead.
Yeah, he wasn't away from Jerry Lewis that long, and apparently he did a show the night before in Vegas and got on a friend's plane, chartered a plane. Anyway, showed up at 9 o'clock the next morning. And apparently Howard Hawks said, well, if somebody's going to do that, you've got it, and sent him down to wardrobe.
For a moment, what you're talking about John Wayne. I thought John Wayne had just gotten away from Jerry Lewis. And what went through my mind was pretty amazing.
Sorry, Dean Martin had just gotten away from Jerry Lewis. Let's clear that up.
Yeah, Dean Martin. Yeah, Dean Martin.
Mr. What that lady was.
Yeah, Dean Martin is in the process of stealing this movie away from John Wayne, and he does a good job.
Hey, lady, waving.
But what did you think of Dean Martin's performance, Patrick?
Here's the thing that really demands either some research or some explanation or something like that further than I've done or than I remember. Because Dean Martin's a guy. What year was this?
59.
59.
58. It's released in 59.
Okay, so he's about 4 years, not really, not 4 years, he's like 1 or 2 years away from, Rat Pack. So he's really near the apex of that prime part of his thing. And Dean had a reputation for slid into a reputation for not wanting to, rehearse and like Frank, just doing one take. But Frank was a guy who, like with From Here to Eternity, when he took a part seriously, he was not necessarily just one take Charlie. And I think they had done, this is after Some Came Running, which is a Dean and Frank movie that's just astounding. If you haven't seen it, Vincent Minnelli, and both of them give very dramatic performances. And Dean in this, like, pretty much is giving Howard Hawks wants.
Yeah.
He is not phoning it in at all. And it, was it because took it seriously because it was a more serious part than, or it was a more serious part with a better screenplay than he normally got, with a director he really admired. Because Dean worked with good directors. He worked with Vincent Minnelli on Some Came Running. And where Howard Hawks here. There was another Dean perform. Oh God, he worked with Billy Wilder in Kiss Me Stupid. And it's a real funny movie. He basically plays himself. But he worked for Billy Wilder, and Billy Wilder was not a man to be with at all. I mean, Billy was, Billy Wilder's the reason that Edward G. Robinson was not a shy, retiring fellow. Quit for about 20 years because they did a movie together. Not Edward, it was Cagney. It was Cagney. Over actors again of his era, along with Eddie Robinson. And Cagney quit the business after he did 1, 2, 3 because Cagney wanted to play it and ad lib and have fun with the script, and Wilder was like, no, and you're going to be playing one of the most intense comedic parts ever, and I'm going to work you like a dog. So here's a leash, and it was a huge thing. And Cagney or Wilder said of Frank and Dean, he said, if those guys took their acting as seriously as they took their singing, they would make every single actor in the world look like a huge impolite term for homosexual that at the time just meant a sexual figure. So we gotta give culture a little bit of room there. I don't think Billy would use that term today.
No.
But basically make them look like they were not as worthy of praise as they normally get. So, and here's Exhibit A for Dean Martin. He doesn't mug. He doesn't play anything for laughs. He is engaging every moment. And this is a movie that has something important going on every damn moment. Even if it's just the characters getting to be the characters. Casual stuff in this movie. For a movie with such intense stakes, it kind of slows down, takes its time, allows John Wayne to actually flirt with Angie Dickinson with vulnerability. There's this sense that he has that I'm not going to get this. This isn't going to work out. And when it does, Angie Dickinson's so happy. And Dickinson's fantastic. This is really the great not good actors of the 60s and 70s and 80s. I mean, lovely woman, very nice. But, no one's ever going to mistake her for Faye Dunaway. Like, again, it's like Howard Hawks had a magic spell or just had standards. And they knew that. And it's like, oh, actually, yes, we can do that. Let's do the acting thing, guys. That's what we're up at it. So that's my thought on Dean Martin in the movie.
Butch, what are your thoughts on Dean Martin?
Quick toss back to what Patrick was just saying. Howard Hawks apparently does have a magic wand, and because Lauren Bacall, I don't think was ever more interesting in anything she did than any movie she did with Hawks. So
one was that?
But Dean Martin really he just about steals the show. The interesting thing, I was trying to listen to the comment. I've seen this film enough. Usually, I try to watch the film beforehand. It's like, okay, I don't need to rewatch Rio Bravo. I would enjoy. I thought, well, I'll listen to the commentary, and it pointed out a lot of interesting things until about midway point. Then it kind of petered out. But then it's actually two commentaries intertwined. But anyway, talking about how Dean Martin steals the show. How he was just got away from Jerry Lewis, had split up their partnership, and this was, he was kind of in some uncharted territory. And boy, he came to work and he packed his lunch and he stayed there and he did the job.
You talk about magnificent. That's what he is in this movie. I mean, he is not here for laughs. He's here for very serious acting, and he's very much he's as much of a star in this movie as John Wayne is, and that's saying something.
The tragedy here is it just goes to show you seriously what happens when you throw too much money and too much fame and too much adulation at somebody and too much presidential power, Jack Kennedy, at someone while asking so little of them. Because I'm sitting here thinking, wow, what 60s and 70s and 80s cinema would have been like if this timelines Dean Martin had continued. And I mean, that's the sort of the semi-tragedy of Dean Martin, a whole other subject. But, you know, he ended up making a joke out of himself based on how he could do, you know, just sort of cruise through this. And what a shame. And I don't mean to bring it down. I don't mean to bring things down. But this movie just illustrates how good he is. And if he had not had Everybody Loves Somebody, which knocked off the charts, by the way, what he had accomplished. If he just had to work a little harder to make his money and keep things going.
That scene, let's call it 3/4 of the way through, where it's him, Walter Brennan, and John Wayne in the prison, and he's like, "Look at these hands. How can you use how can a man use these hands to shoot a gun?" And that whole scene from when Dean Martin gets sideswiped, if you will, and they go into the prison, and I mean, boy, sit back. You know, if you think of Dean Martin as just, "Hey everybody, let's have a good time," and you know he could do that, but man, you watch that scene, and it's like, holy cow, that's acting.
Yeah, I mean, and he takes really great bumps in this movie too. He gets beat up after he knocks down John Wayne with a club, if you will. And here's the thing too: there's a bit of blood in this movie too at the beginning, where he hits John Wayne, and John Wayne is actually bleeding from the top of the head here, and it's really interesting because this is this is late 59. This is pre-spaghetti western, if you will. We're coming to that era, though. I'm not saying it's as bad as a spaghetti western. God knows we're going to see a lot worse blood. But it's really good to see here because it lets you know, hey, these characters got some color and really great acting with it, with Wayne bleeding. Dean Martin gets beat up in the stomach, and it's really just what intensity.
And going back to Howard Hawks, how on earth do you make a movie that's both so intense and so laid back at the same time?
Yeah.
And it's a movie that's incredibly intense. It's so intense that Martin has to do all the hard work, and John Wayne gets to have a lot of really lighthearted scenes.
Yeah.
You know, again, Andy Dickinson. He's a very rational, laid back, thoughtful. He is the anti-Ethan.
Yeah.
I mean, what would Chase have made of Ethan?
Yeah.
He would have kicked the crap out of him and thrown him in a cell, basically, or had someone else do it and throw him in a cell.
Yeah.
You know, if in fact, if The Searchers is John Wayne's confessional about everything negative associated with his archetype that he had created, you know, basically saying, "Hey, boy, don't fall in love with this type of guy." Guy said, you know, guys, because Ethan's no prize. I want to spend this is Wayne's counterpoint to that.
Yeah.
Now here are all of the best things about my archetype. Yeah. And pay attention to that because that deserves a lot of attention too.
No, and even Angie Dickinson in this movie, she challenges Wayne a bit too in this movie, where she goes, "Frisk me, don't."
Wow, what a scene! What an erotic scene!
Yeah.
Yeah, and she has such dignity and such command of it. And there's so much ambiguity because is it because she wants to accuse him of something inappropriate, or is it because she wants something inappropriate, or maybe one and the other? Who knows? And that that little touch of ambiguity, that little touch of mystery there is just absolute for dramatic storytelling. I mean, that's what we want to see. Is that, and no wonder John Carpenter likes it. That's a moment that engages the audience and engages the audience's imagination to have to do some work. And every John Carpenter movie, at the very least, ends on that. But at big chunks in the middle, the audience is having to fill in some blanks and do some work there. And such a devotee of Hawks's, and that's a little place where I can see I'm sure Carpenter loves that thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. While you were talking about it, I was flashing back to Assault on Precinct 13, where Napoleon Wilson is talking to can't think the character's name, but him and the female got that same Hawksian, if that's a word, dialogue going back and forth, and just she's right there with him, he's right there with her, and yeah, it's a pleasure to see that kind of thing as opposed to the more stereotypical kind of stuff.
How much do you think Rio Bravo sort of inspires Assault on Precinct 13, Butch?
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. God, it's a remake. I don't care what anybody says. It's a modern day remake, plain and simple.
Because it's a remake.
Yeah, Carpenter even says that. Yeah, it was supposed to be called the Assault on Precinct 13. It was supposed to be called the Anderson Alamo. So when Carpenter tells you it's this is a modern day Western, it is. It's almost like if Rio Bravo was crossed. It was they were in the prison guarding against George Romero's Night of the Living Dead zombies. Yeah. That's Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah.
What year did he make that?
75 or 6.
Okay.
And I mean, it doesn't take away from Assault on Precinct 13,
no.
But it lets you know that with this movie here, with Rio Bravo, how much it inspires other movies, and especially one very, very famous director. But I really like too in this movie, Walter Brennan. I mean, Stumpy is so good.
And, so Walter Brennan's a self-perpetuating cliche, and he rises above, and the script lets him rise above that while embodying it.
Yeah.
And Mr. Nelson gives the best Elvis performance I've ever seen. It really does, because I was watching it and I was thinking, good Lord, this is the Elvis part.
Yep.
And I'm kind of glad Elvis is back, because he's better at it. I can't imagine Elvis managing the same kind of warmth that Nelson does. For me, anyway, I think there is Elvis at the end of the day knows he's Elvis.
Yeah.
I always thought the Elvis Oscar was a little fabricated, and I love him, but but in this, he manages to be a guy. Colorado manages to be a guy who's really good at what he does, and knows he's really good at what he does, and will tell you he's really good at what he does. Never obnoxious about it, I think. I don't know. What do you think? You're furrowing your brow.
Oh no, I was looking to see if Joel was going to say something. Yeah, I agree. I will defend Elvis a little bit. I think if, let's say, Howard Hawks does cast him, Howard Hawks will set him down and get someone working with him. And I think Elvis had the potential to do that. Would he would not be playing, hey, everybody, it's Elvis, I'm here to save the day. No. But, If I had the time machine, I'd leave Ricky Nelson there. He does such a good job.
You know what Hawks would have to do? He would have to give Colonel Tom those roofies that they gave Mr. T to get him to fly on the A-Team, so that he could get away with actually talking to Elvis and directing.
That might have been a great thing for Elvis if he'd been cast, because then Howard Hawks would have put the Colonel in his place, and then maybe Elvis could have had some control over his career.
Well, between Wayne and Hawks, I think they would have both shot the Colonel. there may have been an actual shooting on this movie.
No. I guarantee you. Okay, maybe this is just my opinion. He casts Elvis. The Colonel shows up on set. John Wayne just walks up to him and goes, "What the hell are you doing here?"
That's right. Yeah.
And the Colonel's like, "Get your ass over there
now." Done that?
Oh God, yes. I have no problem believing that. And if he didn't, apparently Howard Hawks was just like one of the trivia things I found out. Harry Carey Jr. was supposed to be in this film, and he's in the credits, and he got paid for it. But apparently one day he called him Howard instead of Mr. Hawks. And that's why Harry Carey is not in this film. So, I can't see Colonel showing up and running his mouth to Howard Hawks and just, dude, take care of him.
Yeah, either Hawks or Wayne would have put him in his place for sure. But yeah, Ricky Nelson is gold in this movie too.
Very good. Yeah.
And I love the music between him, Brennan. It fits. It's not out of place.
And they all three had top 10 singles in the next 5-ish years. Dean Martin, Ricky Nelson, and Walter Brennan. I didn't know Walter Brennan had a singing career because I kind of do an imitation of him, and I can't imagine him singing. But that really tells me you're right. Those songs are actually great, and they do help break up the film just a little bit, give it a little okay, and then boom, right away we're back into the action.
I think if Walter Brennan sang the way he talked, that explains Bob Dylan. You just sounded like Bob Dylan when you were doing that.
What's a sweet time like you living in a place like this? Interesting. More trivia I learned during the commentary. Apparently, most of the big names, this was kind of they were having some rough times. John Wayne hadn't had a big hit in a while. Howard Hawks had been away from making films, was living in Europe. Dean Martin had just left. Jerry Lewis, Ricky Nelson, Ward Bond, and Walter Brennan all came from TV, and Angie Dickinson was new. So it's kind of like okay, guys, our backs are up against the wall, and let's come out swinging. And they did, man. They knocked this one out of the park.
This is an interesting movie to look at because it's like it crashes the Philip Jose Farmer thing where all these families crisscross, and then you can trace where they went. This person gave birth to James Bond and all this other stuff. And this is the similar kind of nexus of all of these talented people. And I think you could do a very interesting book of essays, just talking about how great they are in this movie, and then for good or bad, looking at where they went. Because this is honestly the best that a lot of these people would do, or is as good as the best that a lot of these people would do. It's the best thing Angie Dickinson. I think she's great in this. Um, John Wayne's terrific in this. You know, as an actor, as an actor, it's just marvelous. Nelson. Uh, 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 and to kind of follow the trajectory, you know, some good, some bad, but not all of them fulfilled the promise they showed in this movie. And how and why did that happen?
Yeah. You want to talk about instant classic? This movie is, and it is. It's everything a western should be, and the gunplay in this movie is really good too.
All of
It just it Wayne Wayne does such a fab, though the reasons it gets made, it just fits. It's everything a western should be, and everything it's I hate to say, God, it's well, it's just a classic. I don't know what else to say about it, but well, let me ask you guys this with this movie. Does it set a whole new standard for a western?
it. I don't know, Butch, what do you do? I got some thoughts on this, but I'm
I
not
think
as
it does. At the very least, it raises the bar. Like your Patrick was saying, you know, a lot of westerns before this was the equivalent of, hey, let's make a horror movie. It's like, hey, we got some six guns, some cowboy outfits. Let's make a western. And you know, and I'm not knocking some of the you know preceding westerns. There's good films, and anybody to watch this and listen to me babble on can tell you there's some movies I like that are low budget that looks like somebody got together for the weekend, and there's still some. But you know what we've been saying for the last however long. I mean, this is really good actors telling a really good story. It's engaging. It keeps you going. I believe Patrick said something about it never really. It's kind of long, but it you don't feel it. It doesn't let you down. There's no, and when it does lull, there's a point in it, like with the music scenes. You know, if you have a movie that's nothing but bam 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 bam, after a while you're like, oh God, can I catch my breath? And yeah, I think this sets a if it doesn't raise it, it definitely raises the bar.
in terms of it reminds me of all things Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is one of the most perfectly paced movies I know because the movie exactly when to slow down and what to have the characters interesting when it slows down to let the audience catch their breath, so they care even more about the action scenes when they happen again. You know, one of the big mistakes that's made in a lot of movies and has been made in a lot of movies is just bang, 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 action, 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 action. And because the opposite seems to be long, talky, insurrection, stuff. And this is a case of no, when characters talking about things that matter to them, and forces us to invest even more in the action scenes. Like Hunt for Red October gets away with not really having an action scene for the first quarter of the movie, and then the action scene is just a guy on a table, you know, over the water. And it's one of the most intense action scenes ever in a movie because we care. And Howard Hawks did the same thing with spectacular submarine sequence in this movie.
You know, you were talking. We both mentioned the bam, 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 lots of action. Most recent Mad Max movie, I think it's called Thunder Road.
Yeah.
I had to pause it because it's just like, oh my God, can you stop for a minute? I needed to metaphorically catch my breath, and it was just like, no, 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 no. It's like, oh, okay, just okay. Well, here, pause.
Oh, George, we know you haven't made a movie for a while, and it's a Christmas miracle that somebody gave you this much money and power over again.
Mhm.
But you don't have to do anything. Just please, please let people catch their breath.
With this, this set a standard for westerns, and it just Ward Bond. Ward Bond being in it is a bonus, but Ricky Nelson in it, I mean, is a bonus, and he sets a standard too. But for this movie, I think when you look at this movie, you're right. It doesn't just appeal to Western fans like me and Butch, Patrick. It appeals to audiences in general. It appeals to it did what many what Halloween did. It did what many other things did. It set a whole new standard and always will. This is a movie when if I had to pick one Western to show my kids, it would be this.
Yeah, I I would show them Fellini's Satyricon and just confuse the hell. But having said that, and I doubt that I did. One of the other reasons, Joel, why I think this movie works so well, and the musical number in it is kind of an indication of it. You know, Carpenter talked about he knows exactly where to put the camera. You know, he knows exactly how to capture the most important things that he can capture. He needs to. But I want you to also think about the sound of the movie.
Yeah.
Every performer, every major performer in this movie has an extraordinary voice.
Yeah.
Even Angie Dickinson,
Yeah.
Flora Aikens, uh, they have voices that are unmistakable for me. You know, you absolutely know who's talking at any point, but there are these very rich voices that often can be parodied, but instead it's like he unchains them.
Yeah.
He really has just dialogue and pacing of the dialogue and juxtaposition of actors that brings out the music in those voices. And so we don't really think about that. It's a sounding movie because of who's speaking. And that's such an important part of casting. I think, you know, cinema is so it's so easy to just put it right here. We're
Yeah.
all told that sound is bad, you know, it's a visual medium and all that. It's like, well, yeah, it is, but making talkies for a while now, so we kind of have to pay attention to that part too. And God, it's a good sounding movie. Just
Yeah.
music of human voice.
Yeah. Butch,
Joel?
is there anything?
Well, I didn't want to. I mentioned I want to show this in the other DVD I have, the white cover. They recreate the 1950s. They reproduced the 1950 comic book. I don't know if we can show it. Also, I'll just show one page. Amusingly, Joel and I was talking about this. I don't think they had the rights to the likenesses of the actors because they don't look very much like them, and the art is good enough. You could tell this is somebody that could have done that. Let's see other points that I wanted to make. This is a damn fine film.
Yeah.
Um, by rights, I'm going to lay a lot of this at Howard Hawks because by rights, this movie shouldn't be this good. And Patrick, talk about the sound of this movie. There was a time. This actually, I used to have 3 copies of this, and the original DVD. The music that you hear at the very beginning on the credits when the wagons are coming down, that played on the menu of the DVD. And when I was working third shift and I wanted to fall asleep, had a little white noise, I would put that in because it was just soothing and it was comforting. And it's the shoot. I love that shootout at the ending because it's not it is not the Wild Bunch, which everybody knows I like. It's fun, for lack of a better term. It does it well. There's a feature on Howard Hawks on these DVDs, and they asked him what he thought about the Wild Bunch. He's like, well, it's okay. He said the big difference is he can kill, he can have one person killed, but it takes him so long. I can have 3 shot and put in the morgue before he gets that one killed. And I was just like, oh my God, that's hilarious. I mean, and it's true, but also, you look at the point that each director's trying to make. Howard Hawks is trying to entertain us.
Yeah.
And not that Sam Peckinpah wasn't, but Sam Peckinpah wanted to show you the violence, because I used to think, you're talking about the blood. To me, John Wayne movies were, oh, you got me.
Yep.
That was it.
Yeah.
And there is a, not that it's by any means a gusher, but the 2 scenes you mentioned, and then also the scene where Dean Martin goes into the bar and he realizes where the guy's hiding, and the blood is dropping down into the beer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching that scene and I was like, man, that's a lot of damn blood, especially for a late 50s Western.
Yeah.
According to one of the videos I watched, that one guy put forth that said this was one of the top 10 films of 58, 59, and it was the best. It made the most money in Italy, and he thought it had inspired the spaghetti westerns. And I was thinking about that silent beginning, which according to John Carpenter was supposed to be the title sequence. I was wondering how much that may have inspired the scene in Once Upon a Time in the West, where there's no dialogue. My personal opinion, it's very much inspired. It's I love you. Here's some, I love you for what you did. Here's you something in return, showing you this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a 10. This is a 10.
Yeah, there's westerns that this movie this movie, a lot of westerns owe this movie a thank you, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful movies you'll ever see is Rio Bravo. It's not boring. It's for a 2-hour movie. There are 2-hour movies that are just like, oh, come on. But not this one. Not this one at all. And it's beautiful to watch. Highly recommended. If you have not seen Rio Bravo with John Wayne, with Dean Martin, with Ricky Nelson, with Walter Brennan, go watch it. Go watch it.
I got a question I want to ask both of you. And I have my answer. I'll throw it in afterwards. Patrick, if you could change anything about this film, what would it be? Joel, it'll be the same question to you. So
There's nothing.
That's my answer.
It's rare you'll ever hear anyone say that, but nothing. There's nothing wrong with this movie. Perfect.
Yeah,
If I had perfect.
That nothing there. I don't know what you could. No, nothing. I mean, we talked about Elvis. If Elvis had played the Colorado, that would be interesting. If we had some way to look into an alternate universe so we could watch it, that'd be great. I would enjoy watching it. But if somehow I had the ability to change it, no. And there's not a whole lot of movies I say that to.
When I think of the word perfection, this is it. This is it. This movie, Rio Bravo. But that's it. Rio Bravo. Absolutely perfect. That's it. But That's all I can say. When you hear the Mr. Perfect song in wrestling, this is the movie they should show. That's it. Is there anything you guys want to add before we get on out of here?
If by chance you haven't somehow watched this film, watch it. Then wait a few days, few weeks, then watch El Dorado.
Yep.
And then go to our comments section on this video and, 2 films. There's a third. We're not going to worry about that one just yet. We've already done El Dorado. These 2 would make it watching those films like that. And if somebody hasn't ever seen them and then watched them and then came to the comments and wrote, compare, contrast on these films, I'd love to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a movie for you next week.
Okay.
Next Saturday. And it is, my friends. It's one for you. It's a movie Butch knows very well. Very well. And you should know this. No. It is the beginning. It is the very beginning of the Angel of Death trilogy for Clint Eastwood. It is. Do I have to say it? No.
High Plains Drifter?
No.
No. Oh, Josie Wells? Oh, crap. It's the one I always forget the name to. Oh, my God.
Bronco.
Now we're watching Fellini.
No. But before we go, sorry for a second. It is. Oh God. No.
I've done.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Movie is. I'm.
The one where they paint the town red, right?
Town Red, yeah.
Yeah. I played Drifter. Sorry.
What?
No.
What?
No. God, no. No. For a second. No. Before we go. It is the movie Butch knows very well. But it is this movie. It is. Oh God. No, sorry.
All right. Do we need to have a wellness
Joel, where do you live? Let me call 911.
to draw?
I gotta go. Sorry.
Draw
No.
right now and hold it up.
What? No.
It's what you do for people with dementia. It's the test.
No, I gotta go. Sorry. Bye. What?
What are we talking about? Oh, it's the High Plains Drifter? What?
No, it's not High Plains Drifter. It is a Butch. It is a movie Butch does know very well. Pale Rider.
Thank you.
Pale Rider.
I was like, he comes in, they beat him, they kill him with the whips and blah, blah, blah. And
it is Pale Rider. Pale Rider. That is where we're going to go. Pale Rider. Next week.
Got it.
Guys, gals, no. Have a great week.
You as well.
Joel, thank you very much. I just want to make sure you're okay.
No, but have a great week. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, I will have a great week. Thanks.
No. Have a great week. Guys, I'm not worthy. Goodbye. Have a great week. Bye.
See you, Joel.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.
No. Thanks for having me. No, I'm sorry.
Consider yourself had.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.